Hello, this is Jim Duffy, Refining Fire Chiles. It is February 15th, 2025, and I'm going to show you a little bit of things I'm doing for germination. Now, normally I have a professional germination cabinet with humidity and heat that does 44 trays. All trays pretty much have the same footprint. In other words, they're the 10 by 20 inch trays. This is a 288 you're looking at. You can use a 9072, a 96, which fit inside these 1020 reservoirs. It's a 1020 reservoir, 10 by 20. Or 128. There's even a 512. But I use 288s. So now what I want to point out to, you can do a bunch of varieties in a 288. So you're not having to do so many trays. What you need to do is write on the tray a designation, like where row 1 starts. Okay? And I'll use half a tray. I'll split it down to 12 cells, right? So what I'll do is I'll take a metal marker or something that's not, it's not going to disappear. So I'll get one of those metal markers you can mark on metal. And I'll put a line directly down the center. And then I know row 1 through 12, like say is ahi lemon drop. 13 through 24 is this variety. Okay. And then I will write that out on a piece of paper so I know. Now, when I'm putting the seeds in the cells that have soil, the soil's not in there, as obviously you can see. I'm going to take a piece of plastic or a strip of cardboard to cover other cells up because I don't want the seeds to go boink and go in the wrong cell. And then I have to try to fish them out. Especially if a cell already has seeds in it. Most pepper seeds look alike, right? So how are you going to know that the seed you just doinked into the wrong cell is the seed that doinked into the wrong cell? And so you want to cover up your cells with some pieces of plastic or cardboard as you move along and you seed your tray, so you don't have an oopsie and the seeds go into the wrong cells. So this tray is going to be loaded with ProMix, Premier Horticulture ProMix, which is a neutral soil. There's not nutrients in the soil. You do not need nutrients in your soil. Seeds already have nutrients in them. When you transplant later on, you can add nutrients gradually. I recommend dilute whatever you use, even if it's natural organic, by half. Don't shock the seedlings. They're tender little babies, okay? So now this year I don't want to set up my germination cabinet that does 44 trays now. My garage is cold, and that whole unit is going to work harder to keep 82 to 85 degrees. So what I'm doing is my nursery trays, I'll start at the end of February, first week of March. My personal trays that I use for my babies, my growing, my seed production, I'm going to start earlier here in my bathroom. Now, this bathroom is a mess. It's a working bathroom. This is not a bathroom that anybody else comes in but me or my dogs. And just to show you real quick, because I have 2 other bathrooms. It's a 3-bathroom house. So I keep my extra reptile in here when he wants to fight with his girlfriend. There he is. So he's in here on probation, and I got a heat mat over there for him. As you can see, there's stains on the bathroom floor. Those are not going to come out. These giant lizards have acid in their when they go to the bathroom. And you can scrub that to your heart's content. You're never going to get those stains out. This floor is ruined. Now, when I get another cage, and he has a problem with his girlfriend, so I should have another cage by the end of March, he will go in that cage instead of my bathroom. And then I will hire a contractor to put in new flooring and new paint where he scratched. So that's just a side note. So some idiot online said that I have contamination for my lizards and my dogs and my homemade salsa, which I don't sell. I give it away. No, my kitchen is not anywhere near here. There's no lizards crawling around on my countertop or my stovetop. And my dogs, you guys have dogs and cats, don't you? live with them. Like you, you keep your food prep area clean and your utensils clean and your food clean. Just because I have lizards in my bathroom or 3 dogs in my house does not mean that's getting inside any food I make. That's a stupid thing the person said. Just throwing that note out there. Okay, so back to my prep work this year. I'm doing a few different things. I'm going back to the way I started seeds before I used the greenhouse in California. And I don't want to turn on my cabinet right now to do 4 or 6 trays of my personal seed stock. It's a waste of electricity. It's a waste of space. I'd rather turn it on when it's loaded with trays. So I'm going to do these trays in my bathroom. So this is a 1020 reservoir, and I got a little bit of water in it right now, okay? Now, for your information, I'm not going to load these trays with soil here in my bathroom. I'm going to load these trays in my garage. And then I'm probably going to put the seeds in the trays in my garage. And then I'm going to bring them back in here and put them in the 1020 trays. Now, this is a 288, so I cut down 1 row at the end and 1 row at this end. And a little notch here so I can see if there's water in there or I can add water to it, okay? So otherwise these will not fit down into the 1020 trays, and I want them at the bottom of the 1020 trays so they're getting all that heat and moisture. Do you follow me? So I had to cut them down. If you use a 96 or a 92 or a 76 or 72 or a 96 or a 128 tray, they will fit down. The tips of the tray will fit down into your water in the reservoir. Now I've got my thermostat here. These are cheap thermostats. You can buy them on Amazon. There's a whole bunch of brands. I set it 82 to 85 degrees. This one I set it 84. I just plugged it in. Right now it's at 67. I have the temperature probe in the water. Later on, the temperature probe will go into the soil in one of these trays. I don't have to have it in both of the trays, because the heat mat that's underneath these 2 trays, there's the heat mat, as you can see the edge of it peeking out, is what's being set for the temperature. So it's going to warm both trays the same, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load the soil into the trays, and then I'm going to take a little thing and I'm going to poke down and make a little indentation where my seeds are going to go. And I'll show that later on in the video. Then I'm going to cover it with fine grade vermiculite. And then I'm going to mist that vermiculite. And then I'm going to put these in the tray, and the tray will wick up the water that's in the bottom here. Now, here's a few things I'm doing. Few extra things I'm doing because I want optimum results. Optimum. You can get away with a lot of stuff. You can get away with not using a heat mat. You can get away with not having a certain temperature. You can get away with a cheaper seed starting soil. There's a lot of things you can get away with. But if you're going to spend money on expensive seeds and nutrients and fertilizer and your grow, you might as well go as much as you can. So what I've done this year is, even though these trays here, this 288 tray that I cut down, even though this 288 tray that I've cut down came right out of the box, I sterilized it with bleach water, okay? And these 1020 trays, before I put them in water, I scrubbed them. These have been used many times. Scrubbed them, rinsed them with hot water, and then I sterilized them with bleach water. And my soil, the Pro Mix, you see it's in this foil baking tray like you make lasagna in or something, okay? I sterilized the soil. Now, because the soil was outside in my yard, because I buy extra, so I had a few extra bags. So what kind of bacteria, insect eggs, or whatever got into that soil while it was outside for a few years? I don't know. I really don't know. And if you buy soil from a store in bags for your germination trays or online, you don't know how they manufactured it. It could still be organic soil. Again, you don't want to use a hot mix that has nutrients. You want to use a neutral soil like Sunshine Growers Mix, Fox Farm Light Warrior, which I have on my sheets, Hoffman Seed Starter Mix. Even the Jiffy Seed Starter Mix is okay to use. But Hoffman Seed Starter, you can buy a small 5-pound bag online. You don't have to get a big bale of Pro Mix or Sunshine Growers. Okay? But still, if you buy at a local store, it might be sitting out in the weather all year long. What's in that soil? Bug eggs? Aphid eggs, who knows what's in that soil? So online, if you Google online, it'll say to bake your soil at 200 degrees in a covered container for about a half hour. All right. I like to go extreme. I baked my soil for 1 hour at 300 degrees. Okay. So this soil now is sterilized. There's no living bacteria in it. And I'm not going to grow my plants in this. I'm going to grow it in compost later on. I don't need nutrients and stuff in my soil for germination. I need a neutral pH level. And I'm not really too much into pH, but a neutral pH level, sterilized. So the trays have been sterilized. The soil's been sterilized by heat. Okay. And the water I used for my trays, I used distilled water. You don't know what's in your city water. Could be a lot of fluoride, could be a lot of chlorine, could be other bacteria. You don't know. I know a guy who grew seeds for me for 7 years. He doesn't buy from me no more because the 8th year he bought seeds for me, he moved to a new house and he blamed all my seeds. And the only thing that changed was him moving to that house. So what's in his water? I'm not saying all my seeds were perfect. I'm always going to have bad seeds here and there, but 7 or 8 varieties were all bad. So I think it's the water. So if you're going to start seedlings, I mean, you can water your plants with tap water. I do it all the time. But seedlings are babies. They're fragile. They're babies. When an infant is fragile, they put it in a, whatever they put it in, not an incubator. I think it's maybe incubator. And they have everything sterile because it's a little baby. It's susceptible to getting hurt or sick. Seedlings are the same thing. So you want to start off with something like distilled water that doesn't have any chemicals in it. Sterilize your soil, which I've never done before, but I'm doing it now because my friend Don in Louisiana does it every year. And he gets better germ rates than me. You know, I've been doing this 20 years. Doesn't mean I can't learn from somebody. One other tip I want to give you is buy your seeds early, like around October, November. Don't buy them a week before you're going to plant and then blame the seller that they're not there in time. You know, the Postal Service is getting worse. But my friend Don in Louisiana, I gave him some seeds of a variety that I had low germination on, like 20%. So I said, here's the fresh seeds. And here's some of my older seeds. But the older seeds, the peppers were growing out better characteristics. So I said, try them. So he does a method called the wake-up method, or I nicknamed it that. So he'll take his seeds, put them in an airtight container for 2 weeks in the refrigerator. He's not soaking the seeds or doing anything like that. So he puts them in the refrigerator for 2 weeks. And then when he's ready to plant in a tray that's already filled with soil and warm, he goes directly that same day from the refrigerator to the soil. And he said it stimulates them. And guess what? Those seeds I had lower than 20% germination on, that he got from me, that I gave him for free, he got over 75%. So in 20 years, you can always learn something new. So he did that wake-up method. So whether you have stubborn seeds or not, it's one more thing to give you optimum results. Put them in a really good airtight container. You can put them in rice or silica gel packs to keep moisture, because moisture lowers germination on seeds. And put them in the fridge for 2 weeks and then plant them after 2 weeks. Do that with all your seeds, because if Don could get something from 20% to 75% on older seeds, it's worth it. Now, I know I say in my grow sheet that to soak seeds in a chamomile or black tea mixture. You don't need to do that. Get a spray bottle, quart spray bottle or pint spray bottle, and go 1/4 tea. Black tea is fine as long as it's not black tea with raspberry or other stuff. Just get regular black tea, because the tannins, T-A-N-N-I-N-S, in the tea prevent bacteria, and they also soften the seed coat to help with germination. So what you can do is, after you load your seeds in your tray, get that spray bottle with that tea mixture and spray your seeds. And your seeds are going to soak in it for a few days before they sprout. Why do you want to soak your seeds in little jars or little bottle caps or whatever, and then have to fish out wet seeds that stick to your tweezers and stick to your hands because they're wet? Put them in your soil after you press down and made a little indentation in the soil. Then mist them carefully, right? Then put your vermiculite mixture on top of it, fine grained vermiculite. Then mist that with the tea mixture. And then for the next few days, if it needs a little misting, do that. Okay? Then afterwards, you put on your humidity dome to keep the humidity in. Now, one thing I don't say on my YouTube videos, and I haven't said till recently, is when you set up your trays, hopefully in a room that doesn't get too cold, like this room, it's going to not fall below 68. So the heat mat's not going to fight to keep the temperature up, okay? That's another thing. You're in a cold garage or a cold basement, your heat mat's going to fight to maintain temperature. And the reason why seeds sprout is consistency in temperature. Seeds don't sprout just because of temperature. Consistency. So if your consistency fluctuates from 85 degrees to 62 degrees, your seeds may rot in the soil and never sprout. It's consistent temperatures that do it. And heat rising through the seeds from the bottom that does it. Because professional greenhouses use heat, bottom heat, to sprout seeds. I'm talking multi-million-dollar greenhouses, which I have visited personally in California. You know, they're big operations. They use bottom heat to get seeds to start. Whether it's flowers, tomatoes, vegetables, peppers, bottom heat. So this is my method. Pro mix in these trays, any size tray you want to use. Humidity dome, 82 to 85 degrees. The extra steps I'm taking this year, sterilizing all my trays, sterilizing my soil using distilled water. And then refrigerate your seeds 2 weeks prior to planting. And then plant them. These are all little extra things that is going to give you better germination. And don't you want better germination? Or do you want to fail and blame the guy you bought seeds from? That doesn't mean you won't get dead seeds from somebody. The largest companies in the world will have bad seed batches. The largest ones. Not just me or other small sellers you know of. So, that being said, I'm going to show you how I load my trays. Now we're out in the garage. So, what I've done with my trays, now again, I cut down the amount of cells in the trays to fit in my 1020 tray. There's a dirty 1020 tray reservoir right there. So what I've done with the trays now is I've taken a paint marker, metal marker, and I've divided a dividing line. Now, since I cut down a row, I'm not going to have 12 on one side of the line and 12 on the other. I'm going to have 12 and 11. I did that so it would fit inside the 1020 tray. And so what I've written on the front is front number 1. So what I will write on my map on a piece of paper is I will write front's going to be the last row. That's going to be row number 11. Because remember, I cut down the tray, so it's not going to be 12 holes wide. So row number 1, 1 through 12, will be a variety I write down on my map. And then 13 through 23 will be the next variety. And on and on and on. I have a paper map now. I don't have to make stupid plastic tags to go on my seed trays. I have a map. I make double copies of the map. I keep the map in 2 separate places. This way I don't mix anything up. And like I said, I will put a piece of cardboard or something. I'll show you here in a second. So when I'm seeding my first row, you see I have the strip of plastic that I got from a cheap cutting board thing you can buy at Walmart. And I cut it down. So this way when I'm dropping seeds in cell row number 1, 1 through 12, no seeds are going to go doink doink into my other cells by accident. If they did, it wouldn't matter on the first row or 2 because they're going to be empty cells and I just see the seed in the cell and I pull it out with a pair of tweezers and I'm done. But once these cells here start to load up, I'm going to cover the cells like this. So when I'm placing seeds in these cells here, the seeds don't go doink doink into the wrong cells. Since all the seeds look almost the same, pepper seeds, then I won't know and I'll have to just take the seeds out of the cell I think it fell in. There's also the possibility I won't see what cell the seed bounced into, and that gives another conundrum. So I'm going to cover my cells as I seed so that I don't get the wrong seeds falling into the wrong holes that already have seeds. Am I clear on that? So I will write down on a piece of paper row 1 through 11, since the tray has been cut down one row. And then I have a line here. Now, the other thing I'm going to say, and I'm not going to show you this, is even though these are tiny cells, because I don't want to take a chance on germination, if I have extra seeds, I'm going to plant all the seeds. I'll put 2 or 3 per cell. Now, I'm not saying you do that so you buy extra packs from me and I make more money off you. I'm just saying if you've got extra seeds, plant a couple per cell. You know, if you can, at least 2. Don't just go 1 per cell, and save your pack of seeds and put it. You don't have to use a 288 tray either. You can use bigger trays. Don't plant like 3 seeds and then go, oh my God, those 3 didn't come up. Maybe out of those 12 or 14 seeds you got in the pack, or 20 seeds you got in the pack, those were the bad ones. You don't know. Plant all your seeds. Then if you have an issue with germination and you totally fail, then you have plenty of time to contact your seed seller, vendor, me or someone else, and say, hey, none of the seeds of so-and-so came up. And I want to know that information. Why? Because if some seeds have fell off in germination, and it can happen 1 month to the next, even if you have your seeds tested every 9 months or every 6 months or every year, during the middle of that period, they could fall off. It happens. I don't know why. God created the seeds, not me. I don't know why. So call up or email or message your vendor, and there's no excuse not to contact me. You get my business card, you get my grow sheet. My business card has my personal cell and my personal email. You contact me and I will try to take care of you. If it turns out that you're the second or third complaint about a seed, I'm pulling it out of my catalog and I'm going to offer you money back, of course, or I'm going to offer you some fresher seeds if I can dig them up, or a substitute seed. But I'm going to take care of you. You're not going to lose your money and you're not going to lose your season because you contacted me right away. Don't wait. Contact me or someone else right away and say, some of the seeds aren't coming up or none of the seeds are coming up, and let the vendor fix the problem. Now, if the seed vendor tells you, hey, go take a hike, I ain't doing crap, it's your fault, then, and sometimes it might be your fault. So you know what? You spent money on those seeds. So that seed seller should be able to take the time to spend with you to help you figure out what you might be doing wrong. Hey, what a concept. If you have something broken or damaged, do you not take it back to the store to try to figure out what's wrong and get it fixed or get a new one? So don't be, oh, these seeds didn't germinate, screw this guy, and making a long post on social media bashing the person. Don't do that. Would you want someone to do that at your job and then your boss fires you because you made one mistake or a couple mistakes? No. You want to get coached, you want to learn from your mistake and move on. Unless you have a really bad boss. Now, I will say this, and I'm saying this right now. If someone calls me up and they're a jerk and they're mean to me, I'm just going to give them their money back and don't ever come back to me again. I'm not desperate for sales. So, let's load the trays. Okay, so the trays are loaded with soil. You basically take the soil, put it in your tray, and then kind of like keep rubbing over it till you get enough soil in the trays, okay? Now, you can take your finger and if you're not have too many trays, it won't bother you. You can take your finger and you can like just make a little dimple, a little cup to catch your seeds, okay? And then I'm going to put my seeds in the tray. Now the soil's pretty moist, so I don't need to do anything with it, but I will mist it with a tea mixture of regular black tea or chamomile tea. I will mist it. I'm not going to show you that. It's pretty simple. Spray bottle, 25% tea that you just brewed, okay? And then you use the distilled water, and then mist all your seeds, then put your light coat of vermiculite over it. And then after you put your light coat of vermiculite over it, mist it again, then put it in your 1020 tray, your reservoir tray, and then cover it with the humidity dome. Put your temperature probe in one of your trays. If there's 2 trays on the heat mat, you only need the probe, one heat, one controller. You're fine. You don't need to. If you have a whole bunch of trays, you're going to have to use more thermostats and more probes and more and other heat mats. Okay. I prefer the super sprouter heat mats. They have lasted me for years. The Vivasun and the Hydrofarm ones I've had die in 1 year. 1 year they've died. Okay. So the super sprouters, I have some that are 12 years old. Here's a super sprouter mat right here that I used to dry my seeds after I harvest. And they're different sizes. So you can get one mat that'll do like 8 trays or 3 trays or 2 trays. So depending on how many trays you want to set up right from the get-go, it's easier. And I recommend you start your seeds a little bit earlier in case you have a hiccup, you know, then you know what, you've got time to start some more. Contact the vendor if you think the seeds aren't good. Contact the vendor for additional help. But what I'm telling you in this video, I have started hundreds and probably millions of seeds over the last 20 years. Tried many, many different methods. Paper towel, pea pods, rooter plugs, and the best results I've got is with Pro Mix or the Fox Farm Light Warrior or the Hoffman Seed Starter. They're all very similar. Now, here's my big cabinet that there's no need for me to set up for 3 or 4 trays. But here's my big cabinet, okay? So I can do 44 trays that have a 10 by 20 footprint in it. So I'm not going to set this up in this cold garage because it's going to get down to the 20s. This garage is going to get cold. So why the heck am I going to set this up for 2 or 4 trays? I'm just going to do them in my bathroom. I'm single. I can do what I want. Now, if you're doing tons and tons of trays, you might not want to press down these with your finger one at a time. It's only going to take a few minutes anyway if you've got a few trays. What you might want to do is just take another tray, put it on top of this tray, and squish it down, and then the nipples of the bottom of the other tray will make your indentations for your seed. Okay? You got that? So I'm not going to show you putting the vermiculite on the seed, and I'm not going to show you the boring thing of me putting seeds in the holes. I'm just basically going to take seeds and put 2 to 3 per hole. And I'm going to write it down on a map, and I'm going to be careful I don't bounce seeds into a hole that already has seeds, because then I won't know what's what. And I'm going to make a map, make 2 copies of that map. Now, the other thing I'm going to do, and I'm just going to mention to you real quick, and I know this video is boring because you're looking at the same thing for a long time of the video. After you set up your trays, especially if you're in a room that's like maybe in the 60s, because a lot of people don't want their house cooking at 75, right? A lot of people like go to bed with 66, 68 degree temperatures. I do, you know, with a good blanket. Then you're not paying the electric or gas bill so high. So to not go away from that, I'm not going to have these seed trays out in the garage. I'm having them in my bathroom inside my house. Then my mats won't be working so hard to maintain temperature because they won't be in a cold environment where the heat's getting sucked away. But here's a little tip. After you put your seeds in your tray, mist them with a tea mixture. You don't need to soak them separately and then put them in this tray. Mist them with the tea mixture in your soil when the seeds are already put in your holes. Gently. Don't spray this bottle as hard as you can, because if you do that, you might blow the seeds out. So just spray it gently, okay? Then cover it with your vermiculite. Lightly sprinkle vermiculite, fine grade vermiculite, which you can buy on Amazon. Make sure it's fine grade. And then mist that gently. Stick it in your 10-20 tray that has a little bit of water, like a 1/2 inch of water in the bottom of it, right? And then put your humidity dome over. Put your temperature probe in one of the trays. If it's one mat's doing 2 trays or one mat is doing 1 tray. Put your temperature probe into the soil in one of the cells, 82 to 85 degrees. I prefer 83, 84. And then take a blanket or some towels and put it over your trays for the first 5 days to hold that heat in there. So you can keep the consistency of the heat. Consistency of the heat is going to get you to sprout. As the seeds sprout with your humidity dome, as they start sprouting up, okay, you're going to want to try to get humidity domes. I'm going to tell you where to get this stuff that have a vent on them, and open up the vent, because you don't want your seeds to go from a totally humid environment, seedlings, your fragile babies, to go from an environment of extreme humidity to no humidity. That can kill a seedling. So what I like to do, and I'll show you here what I like to do. Let's walk around in my messy garage because it's not cleaned up yet for growing. Here's the vermiculite, by the way. Hoffman's Horticulture Vermiculite. See it? So that's what I'm going to cover my seeds with after I put them in the trays. Now, what you can do is, these are the smaller humidity domes. You see they're only like 2 inches high. So instead of changing your environment so quick, you can buy these bigger humidity domes and put them over and let your seedlings get a little bit bigger. And then when you they've got vents on them. See the vents? They've got vents on them. So then you can take the vents and open them up halfway, and then a day later all the way, and then take them off, and then get some lights over your plants. 2.5 feet distance is lights. If you're in a 288 tray like these here, you probably don't want to develop your seedlings in them. You probably want to up pot them to other pots. There's a lot of videos on my channel that shows you how I transplant tiny seedlings. I don't wait till they grow and get a few leaves. I get them out of the tray as soon as they're about 1.5 inches long or 1 inch long. I get them out gently, gently. And you'll learn. Okay? On a final note, I get all my seedling trays, my 1020 reservoir trays, which are those right there, all the different size seedling trays, and humidity domes, short ones and tall ones, from Greenhouse Megastore online. You can buy 10 or 25, or you can buy a package of 100. I don't know. They've got all different groups, so it depends on how much growing. And keep in mind, when you get a 1020 tray like this reservoir here, get the thick ones. They'll last you your entire life unless you step on them or run over them with your car. Don't get the cheap, flimsy ones. They have like 4 grades of thickness. Get the heaviest duty ones. They'll last you forever. You'll never have to buy them again. And even these trays, even though they're fragile, thin plastic, you can use them over and over again. Okay? You know, just rinse them really good. And then, you know, what you write on them, you can always scrub off with a scouring pad. And then remark them again in your next season, what you want to write on them. Or dividing lines or whatever. Okay? So that's how I do it. You're just going to have to visualize me planting the seeds, spraying it, putting the vermiculite over it, spraying it, then putting it in the tray. Okay. Well, I might show you the final part. But this video is getting long, and I don't want you to fall asleep. I suggest you watch this video 2 or 3 times so you get it in your head. Write notes. Okay? I've been doing this for 20 years. And this is where I've evolved to if I do trays on heat mats. I don't have to do trays on heat mats because I have a professional germination cabinet. But why am I going to set this up for my early trays when I don't have to and waste all that electricity and space? All right. This is Jim Duffy, Refining Fire Chiles. And if this video goes on a little bit longer, it's because I added to it. Okay. So now I've seeded the tray carefully, making sure I don't get the wrong seeds in the wrong thing. And like I told you, I put down strips of plastic. So if a seed happens to bounce, it doesn't bounce into a hole that has some seeds already, because then it will be impossible to tell which seeds are which, especially if you don't know what hole it bounced into. So when you're doing multiple cells, it's good to cover up the cells that already have seeds in them, or at least a few inches worth. So if you have a little oops, you don't get a seed dropping into a hole where you have a couple of other seeds. So the next step is I cover it, I spray it with a tea solution, which is this, which is 1 cup of chamomile tea to the rest of is distilled water. So I misted the seeds, and then I gently covered the seeds. You see the seeds right there? So you see there's an indentation where I put them, and I got more than 2 or 3 seeds in each hole, because I'd rather have a lot more seedlings up for me to choose from than have to replant again. Again, this is for a business. You're going to be buying packets of seeds from people, and it's going to be limited. But if you're a business and you got a ton of seeds to plant extras. Plant a whole bunch of them. Then that way you'll get some up, you'll have some. You know, it just saves time. So what I'm using is the vermiculite I'm using is Hoffman's vermiculite. And this is the fine grade one, the fine graded one. Got this on Amazon. 18 dry quarts. And I always get a couple bags. I cover my trays with vermiculite. Why do I do that? Because the multi-million-dollar greenhouse in California that used to do some of my nursery trays, not my personal trays, my nursery trays, that's what they do. They cover the tray with a light covering of vermiculite. So I copy that from them. And just to let you all know, because I've had some people say like, oh, you have your workers seed your trays. I seed all my trays. 1 year in 2021, I let my girls seed my nursery trays, not my personal. Nobody in the history of my company has ever seeded my personal trays for my seed growing. I do all that 100%. I don't let anybody do it. I need to make sure it's perfect because I don't want mistakes being made with that. Now, with the nursery trays, I did let the girls do it 1 year. Well, they didn't do it all. They helped me. And they planted too many seeds. And it just was, you know what? They tried. But from now on, I do all the trays now. That's all there is to it. So these have been covered with vermiculite. Okay. And then I'm going to gently mist the vermiculite. Even though there's moisture under the vermiculite, I'm going to gently mist it. Why say gently mist it? You don't want to be blowing the dry vermiculite all over the place. And you don't want to be blowing seeds out of the holes when you mist the seeds. So you want to do it gently. Okay? Or from a distance with a light mist, like I'm doing right here. Because you don't want to be blowing stuff around. So now it's ready to go back into the tray inside where it's going to be set up for growing. Now we're back in my working bathroom. I put the tray that's seeded and covered with vermiculite in the 1020 reservoir tray. And again, you can buy all these trays at Greenhouse Megastore online. My thermostat, I don't have it in the soil yet, the probe. I only need to put the probe into one tray because both trays are on the same heat mat. Okay, so the next step is to put a clear cover, humidity dome, over the tray. Well, there we go. Well, thought we had it on there. It's slipping off because this 1020 tray is a little bit larger than the other. So anyway, there's the clear humidity dome over the tray. And I put a piece of tape over the vent. I'll open up that vent after a while. Now, when I get the second tray set up, I will then take a blanket and put it over both of these trays to hold the heat in better. So that way the thermostat isn't really working that hard to push the electricity into the heat mat to maintain the temperature, if you follow me. I'll take the temperature probe, the little temperature probe, it's under here, the little probe, and I'll stick this in one of the trays. And then I have it already set to 84 degrees. So 82 to 85, I'm going to go 84. And like I said, I'll seed this tray here. I'll mist it with the chamomile tea, the seeds. Then I will put vermiculite over the seeds. And then I will mist it again with the chamomile tea solution. And then I will bring it back in here and put a humidity dome over it. And then stick the probe in one of the trays. And then after I do that, I will cover both trays with a heavy blanket or some towels just to hold the heat in better. Okay? So the heat doesn't dissipate and escape is easier. I'm trying to maintain the heat. It's not just bottom heat that sprouts the seeds and makes germination happen. It is also consistent heat, not fluctuating. A couple degrees is not a problem. That can happen. Remember, these heat mats are just plastic or rubber things with wires in them. They're not technical. That's why you want to use a thermostat. Your thermostat will control the amount of electricity that goes into the mat so it doesn't get too hot and fries your seeds. Because I've seen people fry their seeds. The heat mat went up to 90-something degrees and killed their seeds. Or it won't get cold. And if it gets cold, well, then your seeds could just rot. They won't sprout. Now, another thing I'm going to tell you is a trick. If you're doing super hot crosses, Capsicum chinense, habanero species, try to keep them all in the same tray. They are going to take longer to germinate, anywhere from 7 to 14 or more, maybe 21 days to germinate, depending on how old the seed is, depending on the genetics of the seed. So don't be putting jalapeno and seeds that sprout easy in the same tray as your harder to sprout seeds, because then you'll have seeds sprout and they'll start getting tall, and you'll have to take the humidity dome off before the longer to take germinating seeds get up. So try to have your slower germinating seeds, your more difficult seeds, mostly Capsicum chinense and super hots or older seeds, in a tray by themselves. And then have your tray with the easier seeds in a separate tray. Okay? This way everything comes up pretty much at the same time, hopefully. Now, when these seedlings sprout and they get about an inch or so, I'm going to probably put a taller humidity dome over them to give them more room, and then I'll get them underneath lights in my garage. Okay? And I have videos on my YouTube that shows you how I transplant. Plenty of them, but I might do a new one here in 2025. All right? I hope this has been helpful. I also, when I use these 288 trays, I cut down the rows on both sides so they fit inside this 1020 reservoir. But I also cut out 2 little holes there. Why did I cut them out? So I can see if there's water in there, if it starts drying up, and I can add water in through that hole. You can't add water on top of the tray. You'll blow out the seeds in the soil. So I have a spot right there where I put in the water. Again, so I hope this has been helpful. Should have this video up on YouTube early, in time for some of you to learn. But this is using a 288 tray. You can use other size trays if you want, as long as they fit in the 1020 tray, and you can add water from the bottom. All right? This is Jim Duffy of Refining Fire Chiles, and you all take care now, and I hope this helps you to do better at the seeds. Watch the video once or twice, at least twice, because there's a lot of things I say, information, and it's a long video. Sorry about that, but there's a lot of information and a lot of different things I'm doing now when I'm doing separate trays. Again, I have a big seed germination cabinet that's professional. I normally just throw the trays in there, but I wanted to show you how I do trays outside of that cabinet, because you're not going to buy a $5,000 cabinet. You're going to be doing it in trays like this. So this is the last part of the video that I showed the trays that I was starting. So this is the last part. As you can see, almost everything has popped. Now, it was February 15th where we planted the seeds late at night. So you can't count February 15th. Today is the 23rd. So that's 8 days. This is what 8 days looks like. You can see some of the seedlings are taller than the others. That's okay. If they get about 2 inches and they're a little leggy, that's all right. Because you know why? You know, I'm telling you, I guarantee you, some people are going to see this video and they're going to go, oh, those seedlings are too leggy. You need to get them under lights. Well, you know, I've been doing this for 20 years. It's very simple. When I plant these in the soil pots, which will be this week, today's Sunday, I'll probably do it Tuesday. I'll just plant them extra deep. That's all. Just make a little bit deeper hole, put the plant in a little deeper. Leggy in this is not going to matter. Even if these suckers were 3 inches tall, it's not going to matter. But I wanted to show you that most of the stuff is popped. Some stuff is taking its time. Most of these are super hots, Capsicum chinense species. So, you know, some are going to be a little bit later. You know, 8 days is pretty good. These first ones started popping in 5 days. First one started coming up in 5 days. So even though they're a little leggy, doesn't matter. You just plant them extra deep. And then once you have them transplanted into soil pots with a little bit of fertilizer, a little bit of mycorrhiza, get them underneath lights and you'll be fine. I'm telling you, I've been doing this over 20 years. So this is the result of that. And I moved these trays on top of my reptile cages. Yay! Because the reptile cages give off enough heat that I don't even need to run the heat mats. They're about 80-something degrees, the top of this reptile cage. Here's one of the other ones that was planted the same evening. Okay? So, I got them on top of these reptile cages. It's PVC. is the ceiling. So all the heat rises. So the heat in the reptile cage rises to the top. And I got a temp gun. Really good to invest in a temp gun. You can get them as low as like $18 or get a good one for $35. And you point that laser beam temp gun anywhere in your tray, anywhere on the surface of your heat mat, and you'll get a better accurate reading than the thermostat on your thermostat control for your heat mat. But I don't need the heat mat. These are sprouting just fine. This tray here was planted about 2 days after those first 2 trays. And you can see they're starting to pop up. This tray was planted last night, so there's nothing to see there, folks. Nothing to see. So this tray is at about 5 days, maybe 4 days. Okay. Anyhow. So, and you can put stuff on top to keep the heat in. I've got some towels or whatever inside these plastic things, and I'm just laying them on top of the trays just to help keep the heat in. If I start seeing I get too warm of a temp reading, I can always pull them off. But I will not be developing the plants in these trays. As soon as I start getting some seedlings pop up, I'll take the tray and I'll start the tall seedlings. I'll start transplanting to soil pots, and that'll be next Tuesday, maybe Monday night, maybe tomorrow night. And put a little bit of mycorrhiza in the plant hole, plant them extra deep, keep them moist, and put them underneath my LED lights and grow them to where they'll be ready to go outside by end of April. Okay, so this is Jim Duffy, Refining Fire Chiles, and I just thought I would show you what's going on. If you want to develop your seedlings in a tray, then get the taller humidity domes that are taller than these plastic humidity domes. These are about 2 inches. Get the ones that are about 6 inches and let them grow in there. But these are 288 trays, so you really don't want to leave plants in them too long unless you're growing for nursery plugs. Okay? All right. You all take care now. Bye-bye.